ஸோ இப்போ ஒரு ஹேண்ட் ஆஃப் அப்ளாஸ் நம்ம வந்து பாலாஜி மெடிக்கல் காலேஜ் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் டைம் ஆஃப் கம்ப்யூட்டர்ஸ் அண்ட் ஆல்சோ அந்த கனெக்ஷன்ஸ் கேம் தான் பண்ணோம். இப்போ கூட நம்ம நெக்ஸ்ட் செஷனுக்குள்ள போகிறோம். ஸோ இன்னும் எல்லாரும் ஹாப்பியாக இருக்கீங்களா? எல்லாரும் சிரிக்கிறீங்க, சூப்பர். ஸோ இதே அளவோட அப்படியே வந்து நம்ம நெக்ஸ்ட் செஷனுக்குள்ள போகிறோம்.
Next session வந்து ஸ்பீக்கர் செஷன் மாதிரி. யாருன்னா டாக்டர் விஜய் ஆனந்த் சார். ஒரு ஸ்மால் இன்ட்ரடக்ஷன் என்னன்னா, அவர் வந்து மக்குண்டா கிறிஸ்டியன் லெப்ரசி ஜெனரல் ஹாஸ்பிட்டலில் பீடியாட்ரிக் சர்ஜனாக ஒர்க் பண்ணாரு. ஒரு ரிமோட் பார்ட் ஆஃப் அசாம். அப்புறம் அது மட்டும் இல்லாமல் வந்து அவர் ஒரிஜினலி ஃப்ரம் தமிழ்நாடு. அப்புறம் வந்து கம்ப்ளீட் போஸ்ட் கிராஜுவேட் இன் சிஎம்சி பெங்களூர். ஸோ இந்த ரவுண்ட் ஆஃப் அப்ளாஸ் வெல்கம் சார்.
It comes to this person, 38. My religious want to live by faith. So actually, in Hebrews 10, the Bible talks about Jesus dying on the cross for us, so that we don't have to offer sacrifices anymore. And we should move close to Him. And how do we do that? By living a life of faith. That's what it says. The righteous, my righteous one, will live by faith. So I'm going to give a short Bible study about faith, followed by some of the issues that we face in college. And I'll have another talk about my work. My wife and me are working in a mission hospital. So about that. Next. So these are a series of stories of great men and women of God and what we can learn from their lives. Next. What is the definition of faith? So if you see something and you believe in it, that is because the evidence is there before your eyes. No? You can see something and you know that this is true because you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it. But when you believe something which cannot be seen, that is faith. So we look at a problem and we can see that it is going to be solved because we are looking at it through eyes of faith. So through our human eyes we cannot see any solution. It looks like an impossible situation. But through God-given eyes of faith, we can see through all those problems and we know that something wonderful is going to happen. So what it says, the Bible says is that we must learn to live in faith. Learn to see beyond what our human eyes can see. Next. So these are I've taken out a few stories out of this chapter. So this chapter is called the Hall of Fame, full of great people in the world in the Old Testament and their stories. So the first one is about Noah. So I think I'm not going to tell you all the stories, all of you know the stories. But Noah lived a few hundred years. No? And in those days, the time of the patriarch. So God told Noah, go and build one big boat because a big flood is going to come. So people say that from the time that God told Noah to build the ark and the time when the flood actually came was many years. So what do you think everybody thought? So here is a man who is building a big boat and there's no rain, there's no sea. They all thought he must be a fool. Huh? So very often in our life, when God tells us to do something, many people around us think we are fools. And that can include your family, it can include your friends, it can include your classmates. They all may think you are a fool. So that is the first lesson that we must learn, that we must learn to face ridicule. So if you want to go after God, He often tells us to do things that are not accepted in the sight of the world. Next. So there is a lot of verses in this chapter about Abraham. Abraham was a great man of God. So in this verse it says, God told him to go to some place. So suppose God tells you, one of you, to go to some remote place in Bihar. So immediately you do a Google search. Where exactly is this place? What is the situation like there? Who are the people there? Is there any danger there? No, you want to know everything before you agree to go. But Abraham was not like that. God told him to go and he simply went. He simply believed that whatever might happen, along with God, with him, they can manage any problem. Okay? So God's presence with him was sufficient. So that is the second lesson we must learn. Abraham obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. And in those days, there was no way to find out what the situation is going to be like when you go to this new place. So I told you about ridicule. Uh, Actually, my parents wanted me to build a nursing home in Chennai when I got into MBBS. So they already purchased a piece of land. And when I told I want to go to North India, they became very upset with me. So finally, I sort of ran away from home. I'm not telling you all to run away. I'm just saying that sometimes uh, our friends and relatives may not be able to see the plan that God has for you. And similarly, when we were asked to go to Assam, we had never thought of going to Northeast India. No? We were thinking only of places in North India. So it was a completely new place, but God gave us the strength to manage. Next. Next. The other thing is, Abraham never built a big house. He was not a poor man. So easily he could have built a big house, wealthy man. But wherever he went, he just put a tent. So the lesson is, don't put deep roots in this world. So we are not citizens of this world. We are citizens of the kingdom of heaven, temporarily posted in this world. So what is the advantage of the tent? When God tells him, now you pack up and go to this place, in one day he can fold his tent and he can be on his way. And suppose he has built a big house, then he has to find somebody to sell it, and then he has to find another place to buy. So all this is going to take a lot of time. So Abraham's life was marked by complete and immediate obedience. He didn't want to waste time. So we should not have deep roots in this world. Next. Then the only thing what Abraham wanted was that he wanted a son. And he kept on asking. And finally God told, I will give you a son. And then Sarah became very old, probably menopausal. So it doesn't look like they're going to have a son. And at that time, she became pregnant and delivered a son. So when the son was a bit old, maybe in his teenage, God tells Abraham, God, sacrifice your son in the mountain that I will show you. So why will God tell such a faithful servant to sacrifice the one thing that he really longed for? Why did he want to do that? So maybe after the son was given, when Isaac was given, And Abraham and Sarah lavished all their love on him. He became very important to them. And maybe he was becoming more important than God. So sometimes in our life, something else might become more important than obeying God. Sometimes it might be our career. Maybe we want to make a lot of money. Maybe we want to become famous, publish a lot of articles. Or maybe you fall in love with someone and you want to be with that person. So something else becomes more important than God. So this is to ask us to examine our life to see whether there is some Isaac in our life. So that Isaac must be sacrificed so that God's purposes can be accomplished in our life. This is about Moses. So Moses' initial days were full of uncertainty, but when he became a member of the household of Pharaoh, everything was sort of guaranteed. The way it was going, soon he will be the next Pharaoh, almost become like the son of Pharaoh. And when everything was looking very nice and comfortable, God tells Moses, leave this place and go with the despised Israelites. So he leaves everything. He leaves the comfort of Pharaoh's household to live a life of danger and uncertainty. So what has happened? His family has moved from the family of Pharaoh to the family of the Israelites. They become his family. And that is the same thing that happens to us also. So maybe God might send some of you to different places, faraway places. So we went to Assam. So the people in Northeast India, we had staff from Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya, and all these other states. So they became like our family. So for 20 years we could not take annual leave to go home. So they became our family. So during Christmas everybody wants to go and be with their family. But in our hospital, all the Christmases we spent there with them. So for a period of time, when God tells you, I want to work with these people, they should become our family. Okay? We have to adopt the people we are called to serve. Next. And then there are a lot of miracles. The Red Sea was parted, enemies in the back, the sea in the front. The only way to escape is for the sea to give way for them to walk through on dry land. So we saw many miracles in our life in Assam. So why do you think miracles happen? They happen when we are outside our comfort zone. So with your strength and knowledge, you cannot solve this problem. It is beyond your capacity. Only God can solve the problem. So that is when you see a miracle. So when we live life of comfort within our zone, our capability, we don't see anything happen. We don't see God at work. But when we move to a place where we are vulnerable and outside our comfort zone, then the only way out is for God's supernatural power to work. And that is how miracles happen in the Old Testament and again in the New Testament. Next. There is a very unusual name in this Hall of Fame. So Rahab, she is described as a prostitute. So why would she be named in this chapter? Not only she is named in this chapter, she appears in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. So if you go back many generations, Rahab was in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. The only reason that she appears in this chapter is because she did what was right. So this name tells us that it does not matter who we are. It does not matter what our accomplishments are. It simply matters whether we are willing to obey God today. Our past is not important. Sometimes we think, how can I do something for God? Huh? So our past is not important. What decisions we take today and what we are going to do tomorrow to live a life of trust and obedience. That is what matters in God's sight. Yes. And then there are a lot of stories of bad things that happen to people. The people were cut into two, they were stoned to death. All sorts of things happen. So if you look at modern missionary history, when the first missionaries left Scotland, they went to the western coast of Africa to establish a mission station. So husband and wife and two children, they landed in the ship and they started going inside the river to establish a mission station. Along the way, the children all died. They could not handle the diseases. The weather was very hot. There were a lot of wild animals. After some months, the wife also died. And after some more, maybe a year or two, the husband also died. And then uh, information was sent to the church in Scotland that all of them died. Huh? So you know what they did? They sent the next family. And that was how mission hospitals and schools and churches were established all over the world. So compared to that, the difficulties that we face today are all very small. They are all some denial and some delay in our ambitions, that's all. And nothing major that we can complain about. Yes. And this is the final verse of this short Bible study. So this passage ends in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. So it says that there is a great cloud of witnesses. Huh? So who are these people? They are God's children who have gone before us. So they are looking down from heaven on us. And they are telling us, don't worry, we have gone through the same problems that you are going through. Just go on, huh? And you will be able to break through. So they are egging us on to persevere and to do what is right. And we must cast aside all the other distractions and run with perseverance the road that is set before us. That is our job. So we don't know how many years we are going to live in this world. Huh? But in that time, we build up for ourselves riches in heaven. So all the money we earn in this world, we cannot take it with us to heaven. But the deeds of trust and obedience we accumulate in this world are building up for ourselves riches in our heavenly bank account. So that is what we must be aspiring for. Next. I just go through some choices in college. Next. So we need to develop a close relationship with God. So who is God to us? Sometimes God is somebody to whom we pray for when we have problems. No? The rest of the time we forget that there is a God. Maybe God is somebody about whom we think about on Sunday when we go to church. But at the other extreme, we can live in communion with God. That means when we get up in the morning, till the time we go to sleep in the evening, constantly we are asking God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to speak? Where do you want me to go? I want you to come into my life and take control of my hands and feet and my mouth and live through me. No? So that is the other extreme. So just stop for a moment and think, where are you? No? So are you in the place where I am a Christian by name, but in every other way I am no different from anyone else? And the other extreme, like we have people like Sadhu Sundar Singh, great men and women of God, no? So simply went wherever God called, asking no questions, immediate obedience. So where are we? So the work that we can accomplish for God in this world depends upon the level of submission. Next. So this is what this man told. But it is not talking about physical death. Not that when we become Christians, all of us are going to die. But we are going to die to our personal ambitions. So we all have great ambitions in our life, na? So we are surrendering all those into God's hands so that an even better ambition can become real. So all of you are going to become doctors. So your training, your knowledge, you are going to learn many skills. All of those I am going to give to God to decide what He wants to do with it. Huh? So that is discipleship. Next. So studies is very important. So how many of you are very happy with your studies? How many of you really look forward to the exam? Huh? So the person who really looks forward to the exam is the fellow who has learned everything and he wants to impress everyone, his examiners, by how much he knows. No? But the person who has not learned anything is fearful of his exam. Wondering, is this the time when I'm going to fail? No? So when I joined MBBS, I was not interested in medicine. And on my first day, I was severely humiliated by my professor of anatomy because I got the last mark in class. So she made me stand in front of the whole class, asked me some questions, and when I could not answer, she told, how not to be a useless fellow like this. No? So I developed a method of study. So that's what I have written here. So we have to read the 36th edition of Gray's Anatomy. No? Everybody got a copy. So we cut our Gray's Anatomy into 100-page booklets and we bring the correct one to the, and then she will say, now we will turn to page number 700. So we had classes from Gray's Anatomy. So we finished reading the whole of the book. And when I was in final year, I finished Harrison's textbook of medicine. And I did 6 revisions. So how do you do 6 revisions? First reading, you quickly finish the whole chapter in 15 minutes to understand what is there in the chapter. Underline the key points and write on the edges of the paper what is written in that page. And then you teach somebody else. The second time you read, you don't read the things you already know. So every time you revise, you are not reading what you already know. You are reading only the what you don't know. So then you have enough time to prepare. So I was quite a good student. So the brain converts thoughts from short-term memory to long-term memory by repeating. You keep on repeating again and again, it becomes long-term memory. Second, by reward. You tell something to somebody and they are admiring you. So you won't forget it because it's attached to a good experience. Third, by attaching to something you already know. So you know something, you add a new bit of information. So it attaches to something already known, so it's not forgotten. There are certain things you cannot logically reason out, you have to memorize. So many of you are doing microbiology, pathology. Yeah, so there are to identify the different enterobacteria here. No? They try to find out whether gas and acid production in glucose, sucrose, lactose, maltose. But how do you remember it? No? It's got no logic. You have to only memorize. So you memorize and ask each other, no? So that it helps you in your exam. Because one day something that you learn will become a life-saving bit of information. So we are not learning for the exam. We are learning for the day when you save somebody's life by something rare that you remember. And you become like your friends. So choose your friends wisely. So when I joined medical college, I just examined myself to see what are my strong points, what are my weak points. It is called SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. No? So examine your life. What are your strengths? What are you good at? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? And then choose the correct friends. No? So I already told you I was not interested in medicine. So I must become friends with people who are interested in medicine. So we formed what we call as the bookworms club. No? So all the people who want to study. So whenever a teacher does not come to class, bookworms club will be asking questions to each other. So we read different books. I read from Harrison, another person read from Davidson. So the same topic, we will ask each other, what does that book say, what does this book say. Huh? So those friends make you better in an area where you are weak. Okay? So if you get into the wrong friendship, then they will pull you down. Huh? It's very difficult for you to pull them up. It's more likely that they will pull you down. So we have to be very careful with our friends. So who is a good friend? A friend who helps you to do what you are, the good things that you are not doing. And a person who warns you before you make a mistake. They are your good friends. Huh? So do you have good friends? So they can be your batchmates, maybe some senior people. They are all your good friends. Next. So people may not understand what you want to do with your life. So I already told you my parents were not happy. So suppose your parents are not happy, what can you do? Maybe you can go and tell them, I think this is what I would like to do with my life. So they will say, no, that is all stupid. Huh? So you just leave it. And after 6 months, you go and tell again the same thing. So now they may be thinking, I think he or she is serious about it. Huh? So slowly they will change to support you. And they will help you to do what God wants you to do. So we cannot expect them to change immediately. And parents love their children. Huh? They don't want them to get into danger. But we should not rebel and fight. Okay, next. And we must develop character. I'll tell you one story. I wanted to develop leadership qualities. Huh? I was I was not a very social person. I don't talk to anybody. Huh? But I thought in the future, if God is going to give me a big responsibility, I must learn leadership. So I became the class representative. I became in charge of the NCC. Huh? And I became in charge of the NSS in our college. So when I joined NCC, you have to make a parade statement. How many people attended parade? For every person on parade, you get 50 paisa. No? So if 100 people attended, you get 50 rupees. This is a very huge amount of money in those days. So our entire MBBS fee for 1 year was 300 rupees. So just imagine how much you can do with 50 rupees. No? So all the previous under officers, what they will do, they will write 100 people on roll, 100 people on parade, collect the 50 rupees and pocket it. Actually, there's nobody on parade. So when I went for my first parade, there were only 20 people. So if there are 80 absentees, you have to write 80 leave letters and submit it to the battalion headquarters in Madras Brigade College. Yeah? So I wrote 100 on roll, 20 on parade, 80 absent, and 80 letters, and made one small booklet and gave it. So there that NCC officer asked, wait a minute, where are you going? Come back and explain all this. So I told all these fellows were absent. So he said, you are creating a lot of trouble for all of us. Just write 100, 0, take the 50 rupees. I said, no, I don't want to do it. Then he said, next time, if you write even one absent, I'll finish you up. And he took a long stick. So what I did, when I went back to class, I told my classmates, you have to help me. In those days, we are severe ragging. No? So all my classmates will block all the gates of Kilpak Medical College. No? And when the first years come out, we'll tell them, see, we are going to save you from ragging. All you need to do is attend parade. No? So we had 100 people on parade, and we took classes for all of them. They became good friends, and I never had to tell a lie. Okay, next. And then we should develop hobbies, but they should not become so important that we cannot study and all the other areas of life are affected. No? So if that happens, then our core reason for being in the college is affected. But hobbies are very useful because they take our mind away from things that are difficult. And sometimes they themselves are very powerful, huh? Like music and dance and uh, photography and so on. But we should not get into addictions. So what is an addiction? Addiction is something where we cannot control it. Actually, the addiction controls us. No? So there was one boy in Madras Medical College many years back. So he was continuously drunk. You know? He was so drunk that he fell in the street, and then they had to carry him to the room. His parents were very wealthy, so he had no problem with money. No? Today he came to the fellowship. The fellowship are very holy people. No? They don't mix with drunkards and all. So he came and sat in the last row. And when the meeting was going to end, he said, can I say something? So I said, okay. So he came in the front and said, all of you know that I am drunk. I just want to stop drinking. So I thought this is the correct place to find out how to do it. So nobody wanted to tell him anything. Huh? So they said, you please come next week. We'll think about it. So he came next week. So next week there was a ELS sale. No? So people are selling calendars and badges and things like that. So we bought a badge which says Jesus loves you. Right? So we told him you have to wear this badge. So he told if I wear this badge, will I stop drinking? So he said that we don't know, but you wear the badge and we'll be praying for you. Right? So about 3 months later he came back and said I stopped drinking. So how did you stop? So he said I go to the class, my room, hostel, and I sit in my chair. The 3 boys come and they sit in the bed. Then we chat for some time. Then all 4 of us go to the liquor shop. And then since I am the one with a lot of money, I drink there. This is what happens every time. So that day I was sitting there and as you all told, I was wearing the badge. So the 3 fellows came, they sat there. Then they went to the liquor shop. I also walked after them. But they said, no, you are not coming with us. Because they didn't want him and the badge in the liquor shop. No? So he just stopped. Then one day, one of those 3 fellows came and met him and asked, We know what sort of color you are. So tell us, how did you stop? So he said, it's very simple. No? You have to wear one badge. And you can also stop. So that is the power of God. So sometimes we cannot stop, but God can stop the bad habit. Next. And then there is boy-girl relationships. Na? So people get into inappropriate relationships. So we all have to have relationships, good relationships. Na? So if we ask questions to each other, no problem. But when we get infatuated, it is also a type of addiction. So you know what is functional MRI? Functional MRI means you inject uh, sort of radionuclide tagged glucose, no? And then see which part of the brain is active. So when somebody is got into infatuation and you do a functional MRI, the part of the brain that is active is the lower part of the brain, instinct part of the brain. No? The cerebral cortex is not active at all. That is the same pattern that happens with heroin addiction. No? It is a type of addiction. So the problem is it becomes a time occupying lesion. So you don't have time. All the time you are thinking about somebody else. You cannot study. Other relationships are not important. And the whole life gets severely affected. It takes over our lives. So can we help other people? So one of your classmates has got into a bad relationship. So sometimes it feels very uncomfortable to go and tell them anything. Nah? What will they think? It is their personal life. So we had a lot of these problems in those days. Next. So we got this letter, this paper. We got 10 signs and symptoms of infatuation. Nah? It's like how to diagnose infatuation. So what we used to do is, suppose we find one fellow has got into trouble, so it's difficult to go and talk to him about it. Nah? But you give him a copy of the paper and tell, please read it and give us your opinion. So he'll read it, then he'll find that all it dissuades him. Nah? So next time when you go and meet him and ask what do you think, he will say, oh that paper, I don't know where I sort of lost it somewhere. So you give him one more paper. Nah? So when you give him one more paper, now he realizes that something is seriously wrong with my relationship and how can I get out of it? So this helped a lot of people. Next. And then how many of your interns? Okay, so internship is a very special time, huh? Because for 1 year you are a multi-specialist doctor. You are doing pediatrics, you are doing medicine, you are doing obstetrics. You will never be able to do that again. Soon you are going to become a specialist. So if you take up medicine, then surgery is all gone. Huh? But when we treat patients, we are not treating only the brain, huh? We treat the whole body. There's one chance you will never get again. So many times we think we will try to enjoy, we finish the exams, now we can really enjoy and have a nice time. So during our internship, we made a list of things I want to learn in internship. I want to learn to suture, I want to learn to read ECGs, blood gas analysis. So during my posting, I must learn this. So how to learn? Find out who are the fellows who are willing to teach. No? Some of the best teachers in our college in Roypeta and Kilpatrick were honorary doctors. They had their own private practice. They come and work in the medical college just to teach. So they would take classes at midnight, no? After coming back from private practice. So we had special classes at midnight from the best teachers. We learned ECG from the DM cardiology teachers. And we learned ABG from the DM nephro teachers. Yeah? So it's the best time to learn the things that you need to know to be confident doctors in the future. Next. And post graduation should not be your master, it should be your slave. Huh? You have to choose a specialty which is going to be a blessing to many people. So I was not interested in surgery because I used to faint when I see blood. No? So there was one girl who cut her finger and it was hanging like that. No? So they told to give local and put a stitch. So I was cleaning it and there was one spurt of blood. Immediately I fainted. Then I took my first stitch, some more blood again. So 3 times I fainted. And then she came to check whether I am alright. No? I thought I should not do surgery. Sometimes we don't want to do certain things. I was very fascinated with cardiology, but later God made me take up surgery because that was what is needed. So think about what you want to do. You can take a break after your MBBS, maybe work in a place of need, and then God will tell you what to do next. Next. And then this is not the time to think about getting married when you are in college because data is not available. So data means what does God want you to do with your life? When that is clear, then whom to marry also becomes clear because you know what to search for. No? So when I finished MBBS, I wanted to go and work somewhere in the north. I went and worked for 3 years at Vatanjapram, Christian Fellowship Hospital. And then it became clear about what I want to do with my life. I want to go and work in a very remote place. So that means if I get married, that person also should be willing to work like that. No? Otherwise, I will not be able to do what God wants me to do. It's all very logical. But the question is how to find such people. So I used to arrange the bachelor camps. So before the camp, I used to go to all the colleges of Tamil Nadu. So those days there was no phone and internet. And I used to invite people to come for the camp. And while there, I used to tell people, see, I am going to work in somewhere in North India. So if there are any girls here who have some similar interest, please let me know. No? So I got message. In this college, there is one girl who keeps talking about missions. So I write a letter to that girl. No? I heard that you are interested in missions. If you don't mind, can I come and have a chat with you? So I went and interviewed several people. No? The interview means I go and ask, so when you say missions, what exactly comes to your mind? No? So many of them are thinking about urban missions. No? They are also important. But God was calling me to rural missions. So I said, no, they're not like that. So anyway, nice having met you. Huh? So I went on like that till I met my wife. And so she was interested in missions. And I found that she was really interested because she had gone to Gujarat, to a remote place, and she liked that place. And I had been to the same place. So I went to her college to do a background check. Huh? And I found out that she was nicknamed as Sister Teresa. Huh? She picked up all the destitute patients and gave them a bath and things like that. So that is the character that I lacked. So I was hoping that the person I marry fills in my blanks. No? So that is what I have written 2 plus 2 more than 4. So I think when we are sincere about finding the right person, God will help you. Next. So I think all this is for people who are running Bible studies. Next. So we have these taking stock meetings. So four meetings a week, month, no? So 3 meetings Bible study, 4th meeting taking stock. So everybody has to tell something about their life. No? So initially nobody wanted to talk. So little by little people started telling about their life so that we can help them. No? So we made many projects. Next. So these are our golden rules for our fellowship. Soon we are all going to leave. No? We won't be here anymore. So while we are here, we should be best equipped for the life that is going to come. And intercessory prayer means you cannot say, let's pray for that fellow. No, he's not studying. You should say, I am going to teach him, you pray for me. So you are willing to be part of the answer. No? So I don't know what you are doing now, but in those days we had what? meeting once in 3 months in Rainy Hospital for all the fellowships of Chennai City. No? And everybody comes and tells their problems and we'll see how to help them out. Next. Next. So everybody is different level. No? Some people are just young Christians. The others are, so everybody needs help in different areas. No? So we have categorized everybody and how to help each group. Next. So suppose one of you feels that you should go to a mission hospital. So these are some things you can do. Right? Read about it, visit places, talk to others, and maybe God will take you to the right place. Next. So this is my final slide. So the theme of the meeting is drawing near to God. So when we draw near to God, we are able to see through God's eyes. Till then we are seeing through our eyes. But we are able to see through God's eyes and the world around us. So God tells us where to go, what to do, how to plan your life. Huh? We receive wisdom and strength and encouragement from God. So a clear plan and purpose develops for our life. God is not a God of confusion. Huh? He is a God of clarity. He's got beautiful plans for us. And God is there willing to take us by our hand and take us to where He wants us to go. He's not telling you go to that place. He's saying, I'll come with you. Huh? And together we will go to that place. And we will have peace in this world. And we will have riches in it. So thank you.